Hello, everyone at home. It is great to see you and great to bring you a true expert in what we've all been focusing on, the return of the hostages. Joining us today is Lieutenant Colonel Nadav Shoshani, who serves as the international spokesperson for the IDF. This is a role of incredible global visibility and strategic impact, especially in the current war. This has been something that, of course, the Jewish world has been waiting for 2 years, and bringing it to the global stage has been Lieutenant Colonel Nadav. So without further ado, Nadav, thank you for joining us, for stopping your day to be with us. And please let us know what it's been like from your vantage point.
So thank you, Lara, for having me. And I want to start off by saying thank you for all you people watching. It's been a difficult 2 years, also on the operational field, but also really in the mental field, in what are the spirits of Israelis and what the spirit of the IDF is. And I'm very happy and honored to speak with a group of people that are part of the backbone of the mental support that our troops have. And when I go down to the field and meet the soldiers, they ask me, do we still have friends? Do people still support us? Do people and I think it's something of
Yes,
great,
absolutely.
great encouragement.
We love you all.
So that's the message I bring to the troops on the ground, and it's great encouragement for them. It's great encouragement for me. My job isn't easy either. Not as hard as those fighting in the front lines, but not a simple task to keep your chin up in the face of a lot of difficult reporting about us, some of it unfair. So we value your support so much. You have no idea how much that support means to us, to the soldiers on the ground. Also, the practical things that FIDF does for the soldiers on the ground with their financial support, but also mentally. The fact that we know we have hundreds of people abroad, important people, valuable people, spending their time and money to support us is something you can't describe or put in words, and in some cases is much bigger than the tangible support that you guys provide. Both are very important. Don't underestimate from either one, but it's important for me to share our perspective, how important that is for us, and how vital that is for us.
It's an honor for us to support you all.
I salute you guys, and IDF has won in 7 arenas, and we're going to win in the 8th arena, but it might take time. You guys are the 8th arena. Is the global public opinion, is the war against Jews worldwide, and it's not just a war of guns and knives, but it's a much more difficult war, and you're in the front line of that. And I'll share a bit about what's happening in Israel, so you guys have the right ammunition to fight back. So as we're speaking, we're about a bit over a month in from the ceasefire agreement that has been signed, brokered by the U.S., of course. And here's where things stands on the ground at the moment. So Israel moved within 24 hours, according to the agreement, to the yellow line. We are standing east of the yellow line. You've all seen those maps. Hamas has not fulfilled their side of the agreement. One, Hamas was supposed to return all hostages live and deceased within 72 hours. That's passed. That deadline passed over a month ago. There are still, as we're speaking currently, there are still hostages in Gaza held by Hamas. Now, Hamas has been arguing we don't know where they are. We have no information about them. We've all seen that video where Hamas goes to a house, throws a body of a deceased hostage, covers it up, and then pretends to find it. So we also know Hamas is playing games. I've been on the ground in specifically in northern Gaza, where commanders are saying Hamas is asking to coordinate searches for hostages in this area, and then we see them conduct suspicious activities, and later on we go check the buildings they were in, and we find ammunition. They're them planting ammunition. So as we're speaking right now, we're still in stage 1 of the agreement, and the reason we're still there is because Hamas is violating the agreement. Hamas hasn't returned all hostages. Hamas is not disarming. On the contrary, Hamas is trying to rearm, is terrorizing their own people, is trying to regain control on what's west of the yellow line, and Hamas is trying to challenge our presence east of the yellow line. Again, this is a presence agreed upon by all the countries who brokered this deal, and by Hamas, that Israel is present east of the yellow line. that we stand against Hamas. They have violated the agreement hundreds of times, crossed the yellow line, including armed, including attacking our troops in a few incidents, tragically killing 3 of our soldiers. So this is a very important ceasefire that has a lot of potential, but we don't take it for granted. It's and our job is to stay vigilant, no matter what the situation is, to understand who we're facing. Hamas hasn't changed their colors overnight. Hamas is still a jihadi organization that would kill us and our civilians if they could, and our job is to stand between them. And what needs to happen next is, one, the completion of all the return of all the deceased hostages in Gaza. 2 is the process of disarming Hamas, and 3, the process of forming an international security force that will later go on into Gaza, replace Hamas, and bring stability for both sides. What Israel is doing right now is 2 main things. We are holding the lines, making sure Hamas doesn't infiltrate, doesn't violate the agreement. And the second thing is we're taking care of terror infrastructure. You might hear this as Hamas or people who support Hamas propaganda say Israel is violating the agreement. They're blowing up buildings or they're blowing up things east of the yellow line. The agreement says very clearly there will be no terror infrastructure east of the yellow line or west of the yellow line, and we're doing exactly that. We're dealing with that terror infrastructure. It's part of the agreement to make sure there's no terror tunnels anywhere in Gaza. We're holding our part on the area that is controlled by us. That's part of the agreement, and it's essential for both sides to move forward. Gaza cannot be rehabilitated. A neighborhood cannot be rehabilitated if there's a tunnel going underneath the entire neighborhood. So that's what we're doing. We're holding the lines, protecting our troops and Israeli civilians, and making sure we take care of the terror infrastructure, which would lay the ground for later on reconstructing Gaza and a better future for both sides.
Amazing. Thank you for that insight. And you really touched on something that I think a lot of us are afraid of is, how can we truly keep weapons from returning to these terror groups? And so what you were touching on was basically saying that whenever the IDF is seeing them, they're dealing with it right away. Is that right?
That's correct. Well, whatever's east of the yellow line, the agreement says IDF can operate against violation, and IDF can operate east of the yellow line to remove terror infrastructure, and that's what we're doing. But the most important thing is that the agreement talks about is the disarmament of Hamas. That's the most important thing. I think Israel, America, and other partners understand that this plan can't move forward if Hamas is left in power and if Hamas has their weapons, because they've said they want to do on October 7th again. They're just looking at this as a break to regroup. And the most important aspect of this agreement, and for the question if there will be a better future in this region for both sides, and I believe there's great potential for that, is if Hamas is removed from power, an alternative governing force in Gaza is set in place, a governance that puts the civilian of Gaza first and not terror and killing Israeli civilians first. And I think that's the most important thing. We're committed to the agreement, but we're committed to it standing on both sides and being upheld by both sides. And right now, there's a lot of problems with Hamas or Hamas's part in the agreement.
Right. Absolutely. Going back to the returning of the hostages for a moment, something that has been difficult to see is, much as everyone is elated and it's been so fulfilling for the collective Jewish soul to see all of the hostages coming home, it's also so difficult to see these terrorists released. And I think that one of the fears that the community has is, doesn't this just show Hamas that kidnapping Jews is good business if every Jew is worth so many really horrible, not just really dangerous terrorists? And we know that the recidivism rate is so high. It makes us afraid that actually we're showing that kidnapping Jews is very good terrorist business.
Well, I think that's a great question. It's also a question for our leadership and our government to ask. But on the military level, we've had deals in the past, and in this case, we fought Hamas, and very heavily, and took a very heavy toll from Hamas. And for Hamas and the entire axis of terror in the Middle East, kidnapping Jews meant for some their end, their total dismantling of that terror group, and for some it meant a very serious blow. And I think the message is very clear. We will not allow anyone to harm our civilians, and more importantly, the more important thing is, we've changed our strategy in the way we look at threats. Before October 7th, and this was a big mistake, we allowed terror threats to be on our border with the belief that our intelligence and defense is enough. And right now, our approach says we will not have thousands of terrorists on pickup trucks on our border, no matter what we think the intent is or not, because we've learned that they are liars. They are maybe the best in the world in deception. We see it right now with what's happening around the world and how they're able to sway public opinion, but also how they were able to really lead us in the wrong direction and surprise us. So our strategy is saying we will not allow, if you are a terrorist that says you want to kill all Jews and you're building up a force, we won't allow it. And our strategy, we want peace. And I think that was, and we were able to take a lot of steps to try and prevent war, or push away war. But you have to choose security over quiet or over a peaceful time. I mean, if you want to have long-lasting periods of time that are peaceful, you need to actually deal with the threats and not just postpone them or trust that you will know when their intentions change, or trust that your defense will be good enough. Even the best defense. So our main focus is to make sure they never get an opportunity again. And the second thing, I think any terror organization after October 7th, and I believe if you would ask Hamas leadership, but they're not alive, but if they were alive and you would ask them, they would say that they didn't think we would go this far. They didn't think that we would dismantle them to such a level. They didn't think that we would bring them to a place where they are on their knees and agreeing to a deal to disarm and to return all the hostages. And one of the Americans' leaders, I think it was Witkoff or Kushner, that said at some point Hamas understood that the hostages were a problem for them and not a bargaining chip, because it just meant that the war won't be over. And there's a limit to what Israel is willing to pay. Israel is not willing to accept the existence of Hamas. And for us, we've said since day one, we want a deal for the hostages, but it needs to be a deal that also means that Hamas ceases to exist. And once that was on the table, the second it was on the table, Israel agreed immediately. So I would say any terrorist in the Middle East that saw what happened after October 7th would understand that that may not be the best idea.
One of the things also, and I'm so curious from your viewpoint as the spokesperson, that we kept seeing over and over in the reporting of the hostages coming back and the terrorists being released, was these equivalencies, like that it was being termed a prisoner swap, as though a hostage was a prisoner in the same way that a terrorist was, and that these were equivalent in any way. Can you unpack that for us, and how you tried to address that when you were speaking to international media and try and prevent that equivalency from taking root in the discourse?
Absolutely. I think that's part of Hamas's propaganda machine, which is a well-oiled machine. It's very simple to explain. For who's interested to hear. And what we did was put out the information. Different security organizations in Israel, not just IDF, put out the information of who's being released, who are the terrorists being released. And on the one side you have civilians, people who were kidnapped from a music festival or from their bedroom, who did nothing wrong. On the other side, you had people who walked into a bus and tried to kill civilians, innocent civilians. So our job in that case was to show the world who are the people being released, on the hostages being released, and also to show who the terrorists being released are. It's part of our values. We value life so much that we're willing to pay a high price Hamas propaganda uses that as an opportunity, and sadly, a lot of the media plays along with it. But our job in what we did was to explain who it is. The list contains people who murdered people in cold blood, people who were involved of the planning of multiple terror attacks, people with a lot of blood on their hands, horrific people. And we did a lot of work with the journalists and on social media to show who those people are, and also to show who the people who came back was. And every return of the hostages, we put out information on who that person was, where he was taken from, his family, and so on, just to explain what it is. And there's also a lot of work right now that's happening, not through IDF, but through the hostages themselves, telling what they went through and the system that they were held in, which is not a system. They had no visits from the Red Cross. They had no conditions. Almost starved to death. Had to dig up their own graves. Remember those videos? So there's a lot of effort against us, as I said, but we're up against this. There's a well-oiled machine against Israel, against the IDF, spreading half-truths or kind of trying to really push a narrative and put a spin on reality.
What were some of the main considerations that the spokesperson's unit needed to consider as all of this was happening? Because there was, the narrative from the family's perspective, from Israel's perspective, for international audiences, and trying to manage all of these different, like you had a lot of constraints as you were sharing the story with the media. How did you go about juggling the different security issues, diplomatic sensitivities, as this was happening?
Well, first and
It
foremost,
happened quickly. Like as soon as it was happening, then it happened, pretty quickly.
First and foremost for us, the most important thing was to be accurate and to be transparent and provide the information. It's such a sensitive time, and rumors are running all over the place. And for us, it was important to make sure that we are doing our part to make the picture as clear as possible. Especially the most important thing was the family of the hostages. They've been through so much for 2 years plus, and we just want to be transparent and make sure that people understand that we tell everyone everything we know, and that we provide information in real time. The Red Cross is moving, IDF has received 2 hostages, and so on, and to do the best job we can, to be transparent, to be quick, to be responsible, to combat fake news. And that was our main mission. And then the bigger mission was understanding the context of Hamas propaganda, of stories being pushed around, of what is going on in the media, and kind of make sure that our truth is being said and being heard. But our first responsibility was to make sure that our information, all the information that's relevant, is out there quickly, responsibly, in a truthful way. And there's the families of the hostages, but every single Israelis, and I believe also the people on this briefing, we've been following this for 2 years, and everyone has high emotions, and we wanted to make sure we make the picture as clear as possible and prevent any type of rumors that can be very, very harsh to a lot of people.
Absolutely. And that was something that I did want to ask about, zooming out from the hostages returned for a second, and the impact of that on our soldiers. For 2 years, they have been going to war, lots and lots, being called up over and over and over again, putting all of their personal ambitions, their family, their businesses all on hold while they've been serving the country. And it's been just incredible to see their selflessness. If you can share with us what it's been like for the soldiers now to see that the war does appear to be coming to an end, given that Hamas is, of course, not upholding its end, and the vigilance has to be maintained in all of the different fronts. But if you can share with us, what has the vibe been among the soldiers, and how will they prevent burnout in case something happens where they do need to come back?
First of all, it was a day of great joy in Israel when the hostages were returned. It was what we've been fighting for 2 years and a few months, and a day of great joy. But it was also in a way bittersweet because not to say that the war is over, there's still a way to go, but it was a day of also looking back and also kind of concluding and understanding the high price we paid. Almost 500 soldiers paid with their lives in this war on the battlefield. Most with the mission, people left their jobs and families with the mission of fighting and risking their lives for the hostages, and some paid with their own life for the hostages. So I think it was also a day to remember those who sacrificed, but also a day um, to rejoice over the hostages returning. It was a lot of mixed feelings and kind of a day that, in a way, concluded. Not to say finished, but concluded in a way 2 years and a few months of war, and kind of took us all back to what happened and the heavy price we paid for this. And I think a great sense of pride for our soldiers, seeing that they were able to achieve what we put out to achieve. And right now we're trying to do everything we can to relieve the pressure from reservists. I used to be a reservist. I returned to service. So we're doing everything we can to relieve the tension from the reservists and make sure they get time with their families and go back to work. And we hope back to as normal as we can in this country. But we're ready. Our troops are ready. We hope nothing happens, but if it does, we're ready. Our troops are ready, and they've done a great job. I speak to some of them, my friends, they're ready. Some of them are bummed that their calls were kind of canceled after the ceasefire came into effect. They're ready to protect their country, not because we want to, because we need to, and understanding the great necessity. And personally, I remember talks before the war. People were saying this generation is a TikTok generation, is a social media generation. All they do is on PlayStation, irresponsible, lazy, and it's chilling in a way, a prideful way, to hear of the stories of the young men and women.
Yeah.
For someone to understand there's hostages behind that door, but there's also terrorists, and to say I'm the first one, I'm going to jump, and to give their lives for a bigger cause, and people fighting for months, over months, people leaving their families behind, and really a sense of pride of this generation and what they were able to achieve, and from our weakest point in the history of our state to be in a place right now where hostages are returned, including, Hadar Goldin and Oron Shaul, hostages we've been waiting for over a decade, and really laying the grounds with their sacrifice for what could be a much better future for the people of Israel and for the region. So I think really, it's with a heavy heart and understanding the toll we paid for this to happen, but really a real sense of pride in our young men and women in this country and what they've been able to achieve, and very hopeful moving forward.
Absolutely. Whenever I can tell you that this audience loves the soldiers, has them in their every prayer, in their every thought, are so grateful for them. What they're doing is making all of us safer wherever we are in the world. And thank God for the IDF every day. As a last question, I just want to ask you, certainly for those of us who are sitting in New York, or areas where we're seeing the mainstreaming of anti-Semitism in such a visible, in-your-face kind of a way, we're hearing anti-Semitism in the kitchen when you go to get coffee at work, or it's becoming part of the public discourse and very accepted, very excused, not something to dismiss someone over. And from your vantage point, if there's one talking point or just a few talking points that you feel could really sway the narrative that you'd like for us as sort of the army on that eighth front in the war of misinformation, what are some of the things that we can share with the people in our spheres of influence that you think could really move the needle and help people understand the soldiers' perspective and Israel's perspective better?
Well, I think what's important to see, and we've been saying it for 2 years and no one believed us, We're not fighting this war to gain more land or because we like wars. We fought this war because Hamas made us fight this war, and we said, return the hostages and disarm Hamas. When that happens, the war's over. And we meant it. We're fighting to defend the people of Israel. We're fighting for our right to exist. And there's a war here that is not initiated by Israel, nor the way it was fought wasn't initiated by Israel. Hamas built this for decades to be a war with a heavy price on Gaza and on Israel. And Israel is a country that is fighting because we need to and wanting to have peace. And I also think the upcoming months will show that, I believe. We have a duty to, if we don't do this, then they're just going to kill all of us. They said that. And there's so many misconceptions, it's hard to put your finger on just one of them. But I think really the spirit of us is people, and it's very simple. We don't want to fight. We're tired of fighting. We don't like it. It's not our hobby. I left the army 4 years ago. I returned because of this war. We're fighting because we have to. You would do the same. Not specifically you, Lara, but anyone. You would do the same. If you had to protect your own people, if you saw your grandmother being slaughtered to death just because she's Jewish, you would do the same. And we're doing everything we can. It's imperfect. War is a bad thing. That's why we did everything we can to prevent it for years. But we're doing everything we can to protect our people, but we were doing also everything we can to end this war. People were saying it's a genocide, Israel wants to kill people. Then if it's a genocide, why was Israel begging to end the war for 2 years and Hamas was preventing it? If it's a genocide, why was Hamas holding all the hostages for 2 years? If it's a genocide, why did we tell the civilians every action we're about to take and lost the element of surprise in every step of the way? We're up against it. I'm saying we because it's not just me as a spokesperson. It's all of us. We're up against it. Heavy forces that are really brutally pushing misinformation against us. The UN, the same day they would go on CNN or Fox or ABC and say Israel's starving Gaza purposefully. There was enough food for the entire population of Gaza for a week waiting for the UN to pick it up. And they kept lying for 5 days, and for 5 days in a row, they picked up 0 trucks and lied about it. And then we put out a drone footage showing that food is waiting inside Gaza. We approved it. It's just waiting for pickup by the UN. And then the next 3 days, they picked up 600 trucks. So we're up against it. It's not just misconceptions help people understand, and they're going to understand there's actually warfare here being done. I believe there's people pushing information against Israel, including the UN that's supposed to be this, a neutral agency. We're up against it, but I think it's very important to speak of our values as we aspire for life. We aspire for peace. In every step of our history with Jordan and Egypt, when we could, we made peace. In Lebanon, we retrieved just a few months ago from lots of territories for the hope of better future. In Gaza, we just retrieved from territory just a few days ago in hope of a better future. But we have an obligation. I'd rather save lives and not have my friends and family massacred than to have public opinion praise me, But I believe we can achieve both, and that's our next front. And we're going to keep fighting and keep pushing for it. And I thank you guys for support, and really keep pushing forward. And we can feel it. I don't know if you guys know or not, but we can feel it. We can sense your support. And when you see the sticker of FIDF and there's someone out there that's supportive of you and standing up against it, it kind of gives you a boost that day. And really, thank you for what you're doing for us. And I hope this was interesting or helpful. And I'm glad to speak with you guys.
It definitely was. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Colonel Nadav. It's amazing to have you. And we know that you are facing the mainstream media and their spin and doing such an incredible job telling the story of Israel, telling the story of the soldiers. And I want you to know that what you said today wasn't just interesting, it was helpful. It empowers all of us to be able to go back and to share Israel's story more effectively. And each one of those conversations that we have can make a difference, because one person's opinion changed is one, we've seen it just recently in November, how that can affect a vote, that can affect policy, and that can affect what happens on the ground. So we will each do our part as we wait for the safe return of every hostage. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
FIDF remains so committed to supporting the soldiers, the families, and the communities that are carrying this burden for Am Yisrael every day. If you feel moved to stand with them, we welcome your partnership and with tremendous gratitude. Thank you for joining us today. Bye-bye.